The donation of Constantine is a forged Roman imperial decree by which the Emperor Constantine the Great supposedly transferred authority over Rome and the western part of the Roman Empire to the Pope. Composed probably in the 8th century, it was used, especially in the 13th century, in support of claims of political authority by the papacy. Lorenzo Valla, an Italian Catholic priest and Renaissance humanist, is credited with first exposing the forgery with solid philological arguments in 1439 to 1440. Although the document's authenticity had been repeatedly contested since 1001. In many of the existing manuscripts, including the oldest one, the document bears the title Constitutum Domini Constantini Imperatoris. Content: the text, purportedly a decree of Roman Emperor Constantine I, dated the 30th of March, in a year mistakenly said to be both that of his fourth consulate and that of the consulate of Gallicanus, contains a detailed profession of Christian faith and a recounting of how the emperor, seeking a cure of his leprosy, was converted and baptized by Pope Sylvester I. In gratitude, he determined to bestow on the See of Peter power, and dignity of glory, and vigor, and honor imperial, and supremacy as well over the four principal sees, Alexandria, Antioch, Jerusalem, and Constantinople, as also over all the churches of God in the whole earth. For the upkeep of the Church of St. Peter and that of St. Paul, he gave landed estates in Judea, Greece, Asia, Thrace, Africa, Italy and the various islands. To Sylvester and his successors he also granted imperial insignia, the tiara, and the city of Rome, and all the provinces, places and cities of Italy and the western regions. Medieval use and reception. What may perhaps be the earliest known allusion to the donation is in a letter of 778, in which Pope Hadrian I exhorts Charlemagne, whose father, Pepin the Younger, had made the donation of Pepin granting the Pope's sovereignty over the Papal States, to follow Constantine's example and endow the Roman Church. The first pope to directly invoke the decree was Pope Leo IX. In a letter sent in 1054 to Michael I Cerularius, Patriarch of Constantinople, he cited a large portion of the document, believing it genuine, furthering the debate that would ultimately lead to the East-West Schism. In the 11th and 12th centuries, the donation was often cited in the investiture conflicts between the papacy and the secular powers in the West. In his Divine Comedy, written in the early 14th century, the poet Dante Alighieri wrote, Ahi, Constantine, di quanta malfumatra, non la tua conversion, ma quella dote, che da te presa il primo ricco patra. Investigation. During the Middle Ages, the donation was widely accepted as authentic. Although the Emperor Otto III did possibly raise suspicions of the document, in letters of gold, as of forgery, in making a gift to the See of Rome, it was not until the mid-15th century, with the revival of classical scholarship and textual criticism, that humanists, and eventually the papal bureaucracy, began to realize that the document could not possibly be genuine. Cardinal Nicholas of Cusa declared it to be a forgery and spoke of it as an apocryphal work. Later, the Catholic priest Lorenzo Valla, in De falsa credita eam entita Constantini donatione declamatia, proved the forgery with certainty. This was the first instance of modern, scientific diplomatics. Independently of both Cusa and Valla, Reginald Peacock, Bishop of Chichester, reached a similar conclusion. Among the indications that the donation must be a fake are its language and the fact that, while certain imperial-era formulas are used in the text, some of the Latin in the document could not have been written in the 4th century. Anachronistic terms such as fief were used. Also, the purported date of the document is inconsistent with the content of the document itself, as it refers both to the Fourth Consulate of Constantine as well as the Consulate of Gallicanus. Pope Pius II wrote a tract in 1453, 5 years before becoming pope, to show that, though the donation was a forgery, The papacy owed its lands to Charlemagne and its powers of the keys to Peter. He did not publish it, however. Contemporary opponents of papal powers in Italy emphasize the primacy of civil law and civil jurisdiction, now firmly embodied once again in the Justinian Corpus Juris Civilis. The Florentine chronicler Giovanni Cavalcanti reported that, in the very year of Vala's treatise, Filippo Maria Visconti, Duke of Milan, made diplomatic overtures toward Cosimo de' Medici in Florence, proposing an alliance against the Pope. In reference to the donation, Visconti wrote, "It so happens that even if Constantine consigned to Sylvester so many and such rich gifts, which is doubtful, because such a privilege can nowhere be found, he could only have granted them for his lifetime. The empire takes precedence over any lordship." Later, scholars further demonstrated that other elements, such as Sylvester's curing of Constantine, are legends which originated at a later time. Wolfram Setz, a recent editor of Vala's work, has affirmed that at the time of Vala's refutation, Constantine's alleged donation was no longer a matter of contemporary relevance in political theory and that it simply provided an opportunity for an exercise in legal rhetoric. The bulls of Nicholas V and his successors made no further mention of the donation, even when partitioning the New World. Vala's treatise was taken up vehemently by writers of the Protestant Reformation, such as Ulrich von Hutten and Martin Luther, causing the treatise to be placed on the list of banned books in the mid-16th century. The donation continued to be tacitly accepted as authentic until Caesar Baronius in his Annales Ecclesiastici admitted that it was a forgery, after which it was almost universally accepted as such. Some continued to argue for its authenticity. Nearly a century after Annales Ecclesiastici, Christian Wolff still alluded to the donation as undisputed fact. Origin. It has been suggested that an early draft of the donation of Constantine was made shortly after the middle of the 8th century, in order to assist Pope Stephen II in his negotiations with Pepin the Short, the Frankish mayor of the palace. In 754, Pope Stephen II crossed the Alps to anoint Pepin king, thereby enabling the Carolingian family to supplant the old Merovingian royal line. In return for Stephen's support, Pepin gave the Pope the lands in Italy which the Lombards had taken from the Byzantine Empire. These lands would become the Papal States and would be the basis of the papacy's temporal power for the next 11 centuries. In one study, an attempt was made at dating the forgery to the 9th century, and placing its composition at Corbie Abbey, in northern France.